Okay, we're going to talk about a subject today that's certainly dear to my heart. Is anyone in the room, has anyone ever experienced stress? Can I have a show of hands? A lot of hands didn't go up. That's really good. So, this is going to be about the anatomy of stress. And one of the reasons why I called it this is because I really want to give you a good idea of what stress is actually doing in the body specifically and what effect it has on your health. How many people think that this statement is true? 80 to 90% of all diseases can be traced back to stress. How many people think that's true? Okay, I don't have all of you, but maybe by the end of this we will. Okay, here's a definition of stress. When you wake up screaming and you realize you haven't fallen asleep yet. That's a good definition. It sort of gives you the feeling of what stress is, but it doesn't really work as a working definition of stress. So let's use this one. An automatic physical response to anything that requires you to adjust to change. Now, this is something that is actually the result of millions and millions of years of selection. When we existed in that primordial soup that we all came out of, okay? Single cells can actually change and morph if they experience stress. In Petri dishes, they have shown, you put a cell in a Petri dish and you put a nutrient in that dish, the cells will gravitate toward it. But if you put some kind of a environmental toxin, the cells will actually get away from that. So that avoidance response started millions and millions of years ago. And those survival skills are actually seated in what they call the reptilian brain, or the brain stem that's below the large cerebral space. Okay? And that's where it resides. And we talk about, we are very complicated systems, but at the same time, we are very, very simple systems. A human being usually goes between two functions. Either you're in a growth function or you're in a protective function. And those two conditions can actually change the morphology of the cells in your body, depending on what you're experiencing. Now, as far as stress goes, the dangers today that we have are very often more psychological than they are physical. I mean, there was a time when you actually had someone meeting up with a bear in the woods, and that kind of a situation where you had to go into that fight or flight mode to survive, okay? But instead of those kind of things happening in today's society, what we have are not the bears in the woods anymore. We have the bears in the stock market, okay? Or those kind of things. The more adaptable we are, all right, the more successful you'll be. Now, stress does have its positive effects, okay? It does help you grow. It does help you transform. You can excel in your chosen field. Stress also spurs creativity and ultimately will give you a sense of pride and accomplishment. But we're not talking about this kind of stress anymore. We're talking about stress that doesn't turn off, stress that's clicked on 24 hours a day. And that's when it doesn't become beneficial for you. That's when it really becomes a problem for you. And I can say that anyone who is seeking perfection, as David was talking about, anyone who is seeking perfect health cannot possibly attain that if they allow stress in their lives, or if they don't at least control the amount of stress in their lives. Okay, so now let's go through some of the top 10 causes. Number 1, health problems. The cancer, diabetes, chronic conditions, worrying about health. And this is very interesting because for the group of people who are in this room, okay, sometimes you can actually get to a point where you start worrying about the fact that you're not doing the right things to stay healthy. And then the more that you worry about it, the more you're actually going toward that side when you're not going to be healthy. And as a matter of fact, I think they've actually come up with a new syndrome where it's people who are becoming obsessed about their health. Now, it's good to be obsessed in a good way, but it's not good to be obsessed in a literal way. And that's something we have to avoid. Okay, number 2, emotional problems, guilt, grief, low self-esteem, anger, and depression. And actually, anger, depression can very often come from a feeling of low self-esteem, where people feel that they are not, they're not they just don't allow themselves to come forward and be the people that they are, which leads to anger about themselves and then eventually can lead to stress. Okay, relationships problems, especially when you don't have anyone to vent to, especially when you don't have communication with the person that you're in the relationship with. So this is a big cause of stress in people's lives. Okay. Automatic negative thoughts. This is something that Dr. Daniel Amen actually came up with. And this happens a lot. For instance, this morning, when I was shaving, I have an electric razor, and I forgot to charge it. So I had basically shaved half of my face, and it died. So you do start to go into that panic mode, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I can either show them the clean side or the grungy side. But luckily, I did have the adapter, so I was able to finish. But things like that happen all the time. Another thing, I was driving on the 55 when I was on my way here, and all of a sudden, this thought came into my mind, oh my God, what if my car breaks down and I can't get there? My car has never broken down. I didn't have that, but there it was. Automatic negative thought, and it happens all the time. What you have to do is you ask these questions like immediately, is this true? Does this thought have any basis in reality right now? And then you can sort of cut that stress cascade really quickly.